Okay, so what we got here is a Victron Energy Isolation Transformer. And we've got to mount that in the boat. So what it does here, you can have one mounting bolt in the middle, and it kind of hangs from here and here. Now forgive me, I have spent a little bit of time working on this already. But what the plan is, we've got this stainless plate here, and I'm going to cut it out right here and notch it out up here, and then we'll end up with a bolt hole here, here, down here, and here, and that is what we will. I like these things called blind taps. So what they are is they're a stainless piece of round stock that's drilled and tapped, and then you can weld this anywhere you want. And a lot of times what we'll do is I'll go upstairs. Well, here's a good example, or somewhat of an example. So in here we've just got them welded in place, and this is the sea chest cover for the suction for one of our flood pumps on the boat, and you can just weld them in there, and then something that you want to bolt there, you just bolt it in. You can see on the cover on the this is for transducer. We'll have there's a transducer that mounts in there, and this is just a cover to access it, and right up in there is a through hole into the engine room. Anyway, so I'll have put 1/2-inch holes in each corner. We'll weld those blind taps in the boat wherever we're going to mount it, and then this will be removable. So basically what will happen is we'll mount the transformer to this, so it's easy to access that one bolt that'll kind of hold it in place, and then we can put this whole thing up inside the boat and it'll get mounted. So what we're going to do, I'm going to fire up the plasma cutter, we'll cut this out, clean it up, go ahead and punch the holes, round the corners up real nice, and then we'll go figure out how we're going to mount it in the boat. It's the first time that I've tried to put gloves on since my accident on my hand. I can feel it. There's nothing better than painting something that's already been painted. This whole engine room We sandblasted it, we painted it, 3 coats of primer, and then a top coat. I did the best that I could with getting as much stuff in here as I could possibly think of, but you never think of everything. So a perfect example is what I was painting right there. We didn't know where the walkway was going to go across here until we had the main engine in. So now we weld those in and got to paint them. Another prime example of that is we put this refrigeration compressor in here, and obviously we didn't know exactly where it was going to go until we put the generator in, and you can see that I've already done the painting there, but we forgot to do the painting under here. So that's what's next. Got to wipe that down. I already cleaned it up with the flap wheel. We'll get some paint on that. Okay, now we got that taken care of. We are, in the previous video you guys seen us building the rudder. We have since then sandblasted and got the first coat of paint on it, and now I'm going to go put another coat of paint on it. So you'll see in a minute that we painted the first coat of primer on the rudder in red, and I have 2 different types of, or 2 different colors of paint, red and gray. And what I like to do is I'll do the first coat in red, and then I'll do the second coat in gray, and that does 2 things. When I cover it in gray, I can tell that I've got a good coat over it, because, you know, you cover the red up, you know you've got a good color or coat. And then the other thing is if you're painting over it with a lighter color, then the gray is obviously a lot easier to cover up than red. In this situation, because I've already got a little bit of red made up, I'm going to mix this red right in with this gray. It'll become kind of a pink, which is the same thing. The pink will cover up the red, and we'll know that we've got a good color match. Okay, so this is our paint sprayer. Even though I used it yesterday, one thing that I always try to do is before I put the paint in, I run it, make sure it'll pull pressure, because when we were painting the entire boat, there was a couple times where I thought I had gotten it clean and I didn't quite get it clean enough, and then we put the paint in there, tried to prime it, and it primes and everything, it just won't hold the pressure. So if you run thinner through it, if it doesn't come up to pressure, it's no big deal, it's just some thinner. So that's what I'm going to do first. Basically there it came up to 1900 psi, so that's more than enough. I haven't had a problem in quite a while because now I clean it extra good. Get all the thinner out of it. And there's paint. And then essentially we'll do the same thing with the whole line, because there's paint thinner in the entire line. And I'm going to tell you right now, I do not claim to be some amazing painter, but I get the job done. Runs don't rust. The one thing about these airless paint sprayers is they have so much paint in the hose that you have to take into account that when you're mixing your paint or when you're doing this, you can actually start running thinner into the system, and even though it's pushing thinner in, it'll continue to push the paint out, and a lot of times you can finish your project. Okay, so I really wanted to talk as I went through this, you know, just kind of with the video and stuff, but we had some music and stuff playing in the background, and so I didn't want to have a copyright issue, so I figured I'd just do kind of a voiceover here. As you can see throughout this whole video that I'm kind of jumping around from thing to thing. I've got other guys working on different projects, and I just kind of fill in and try to get little things done here and there. Once again, my issue with my finger from my accident a few weeks ago is still somewhat has me limited to what I can do, but as you can see here, I'm just working on wiring up some lights. I put some other ones up earlier, already had them wired in, and they weren't quite enough, so I decided to order a couple more and add some more in here. So just working on getting these wired up, and that's what these next few clips are going to be about. You can kind of see there with what I'm taping up there is that's shielding for this wire. We run shielded wire on everything throughout the boat, and what that does is it keeps down the electrical noise throughout the boat, and some of the electronics that we use to look into the water and see the bottom and see the fish are really sensitive to that electronical noise. So we use this shielded wire to keep that down. One quick thing though, you could see in the video there how I pulled that shielding apart and wound it up and kind of wound it together and taped it up and whatnot. If there's anybody on here that knows a better way of doing that, I would love to hear about it, because I haven't been taught really any of this. I'm just doing it the best that I can, and I'm always looking for ways to learn. So if anybody has a better way of doing that, please let me know. And then here we are, kind of moving on to the next project. We're just going to wire in a power outlet for the back deck there, so anything that needs to get plugged in while we're outside, we'll have a place to do it.